Hi, I'm Greg, creator of opportunities.
And I'm Polly, princess of prevention.
And welcome to another edition of Totally Preventable.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for listening. Quick disclaimer before we start. This episode contains content that may be alarming to some listeners. Content warnings for this episode includes mentions of sexual assault, some swearing, and conversations about substance abuse. So, if you feel like skipping this episode, that's cool with us. We'll be back next Friday with a new pod for you. Please enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Totally Preventable Newport County Prevention Coalition's podcast. And I am Greg, your host, your co-host.
And I'm Polly Allen, also from Newport County Prevention. And our guest today is Colby Rooney. Colby, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I would love to. Thank you guys so much for having me here. My name is Colby Rooney. My sober date is March 1st, 2011. And the reason I start with that is because it's a major part of my life and who I am today. I live in Mesa, Arizona. Recently purchased a home with my fiance about 4 months ago. I am a director of business development and outreach at a local state-funded rehab where we house 100 residential clients and 10 detox clients. I'm also a grateful member of AA, CA, and CMA. I fly around the world to share my experience, strength, and hope. In hopes to help other people recover. On March 1st, I did celebrate 11 years of continuous sobriety, which if you knew me in my previous years, you would know is a miracle and a gift from God. So I didn't always live in Arizona. I grew up in Little Compton, Rhode Island. I was born in Fall River, Massachusetts, because I'm told on the night that I was born that was the closest hospital. So I grew up in a home of chaos and madness. My dad used to hold his hand up and say, "What's wrong with this picture?" And I would run and get him a boy beer. My mom would do the same, and I would know that she gets a girl beer. So I was trained very early to keep mommy and daddy happy. And to do that, you'd keep their hands full with beer. I remember fighting and chaos and nonsense and partying. We lived on the ocean. And I also remember my one of my first memories is being thrown in the ocean and trying to learn how to swim. I don't know. It's just, and the ocean is my favorite place still to this day. I had a sister when I turned 3 and it was me and her against the world. I have fond memories of my dad choking my mom with a phone cord and, just fighting and nonsense and screaming, having to do with drinking. I also have this other memory of holding this mirror for my mom. I don't know how old I was, but we always had cats. We had Whitey and Tinsty. And this mirror had Whitey and Tinsty on it, but they were dressed up in little outfits. It was supposed to be a cute little fake mirror. But I remember holding this mirror for my mommy and my mom doing this motion, but I didn't know what it was at the time. I just knew I was being a good girl helping my mommy. And I remember waking up in the morning time. And me and my sister would get locked into our room or we'd get locked into separate rooms. And then I also remember we drilled a hole in the closet so we could talk to each other through the hole because they wanted kids in the room because they didn't want the kids in their hair because they're drinking and they're partying and they're living their lives. They didn't necessarily, I don't want to say they did anything wrong. They were doing the best that they could. Both my mom and my dad suffer from the disease of alcoholism. Now, I didn't know anything about alcoholism until I became an alcoholic years later. But when I look at it now, they loved each other, had children, but also wanted to have a good time. So they thought they were doing fine keeping us in our rooms and keeping us away, but they didn't know that there were people sneaking in our rooms and doing stuff to us while we were in there. They didn't know that locking us in our rooms and making it so we couldn't talk to each other was going to mess us up later on. And they didn't know because their parents were both also alcoholic. So the reason I bring this up is because I believe that it's totally preventable had there been some education, had there been somebody in their circle that said, hey, you guys drink a little bit too much. Hey, there's too much fighting going on here. Hey, maybe if somebody would have known something about the disease of alcoholism and drug addiction, somebody could have stepped in and kind of been the advocate for us children. But it is what it is. So we watch, me and my sister, we watch all kinds of stuff go on. I mean, we're in the car with our parents while they're driving back and forth to these local bars and things like that. My dad had a van, and he would put this playpen in it, and we would put us in it. And then the playpen would go all over the place, you know, in the back of the van as we're driving to each bar. Me and my sister grew up in the bars. And then when my parents split, my mom went through all different men all the time. And then my dad, we would go with him on the weekends, and we would be at whatever bar he fancied that day. And that's where we spent our time. And the guys would give us quarters and roll quarters down the bar. And we do the jukebox, and we play shuffleboard, and learned how to play pool real good at the age of 7. Still good to this day. But that's just the life that we grew up in. So of course, when it comes time for me to start drinking, I do. It's a natural thing. I don't think a second thought, right? So I drink and I drink and I drink, and I outdrink most men because I got a natch for it. And but I start blacking out, and I start not remembering things. At the young age, I don't even know. I don't remember my first drink. I remember there's like certain things that I, you know, come in and out. On my 13th birthday, I remember my dad making mudslides for all of us. I remember people puking. I mean, I remember at the end of my dad's drinking, when he would wake up and he was shaking like this, and he would have to drink vodka. And I remember feeling sad for him. I remember Polly babysitting me a lot when we were younger. I remember Polly being one of my safe places. I mean, there's just a lot of ins and outs. But then I move on, right? And my mom eventually moves us to Vermont to get away to do a new start because she's met a new man. So me and my sister get whooshed off to Vermont, and I'm there from 8th grade to 12th grade. And I don't want to be there. I love Rhode Island. I love the ocean. I love the water. I love my people. And I feel like my mom's taken us away from everything, to include my dad. So that's where my first resentment starts. And again, all of this could have been totally preventable had my mom had skills and sat us down and said, girls, you know what I mean? But she didn't even tell us anything. She didn't even give us an option. She just kind of, but she was doing what she knew how to do. And she knew how to run, because she's an alcoholic, and that's what we do. Fuck everything.
Colby, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Do you think that seeing, or, you know, as you were growing up and getting boy beers and girl beers, do you think that this made it a lot easier for you to just pick up a drink and think nothing of it?
Yes,
When that
absolutely.
time came?
Yeah. That the beer at my house was water. You know what I mean? It was what you drank. It was what the refrigerator was filled with. And it was socially acceptable. Like, that's what I saw. So that's absolutely the next natural thing for me, is that's what we do. We drink. That's how we relax. That's how we have fun. That's how we party. That's, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I got taught. That's what it was ingrained in my head. And like, I never, some people say they saw what their parents did, and then they said, I never want to be like that. That wasn't my thing. I wanted to be like my mom. You know, she was beautiful, and everybody loved her. Everybody loved Robin. And I wanted to be that. And to be that, I drank. And so that's what I did. I drank and I drank and I drank, and I started to black out. And somebody said, you need to do cocaine when you drink, because you don't act right. So I said, okay, let's do cocaine. So I did my first line of cocaine, and it was love. And then when I did my first line of cocaine, I said, oh, that's what my mom was doing. Shoot, that's my mom was having, like, then it clicked. And I was like, oh, okay. So we drink and we do cocaine. That's what we do. So I tried to do drink and do cocaine like a lady. And that just doesn't work out. So I did my best. And I lived my life, and I moved eventually to Long Island, New York, to live with my grandmother. I got myself in some trouble in Vermont. I got in a car accident, and they got me away from that, and they moved me over in when I was 18, they moved me to Long Island, New York. And that's where my partying really started. And I would drink and I would go to the bars and I would go to the clubs and I would do cocaine, and I got my first DUI. It was just a slap on the wrist. I did my hours at the VFW with the old men and got drunk with them, and they would sign off on my paper, and I continued to drink and continue to do cocaine. And my grandmother said, "What are you going to do with yourself? What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a nurse." She said, "Good." So she put me in nursing school. I became a CNA, certified phlebotomist, and had my first child. And I was able to stay sober while I had that child, while I was pregnant. It didn't affect me. So again, therefore telling me I must not be an alcoholic, right? Because I can stop for 9 months with no problem. But after I had her and after I was done breastfeeding, I wanted to drink again because I like to drink and it's socially acceptable in my head, right? I don't know what an alcoholic is yet. I don't know about the disease yet. I know nothing. And it wasn't out there like that 20 years ago. So I start drinking again and I end up pregnant again. And I get pregnant and my grandmother says, "You're going to marry this man." And I said, "Okay." So I end up marrying this man, and we get a house and all the things. And then I start drinking again, but I do it. Now I have 2 kids and a husband and a house, and I work at a hospital. I work at Stony Brook Hospital. I'm a CNA, certified phlebotomist, and I'm going to nursing school, but I still like to drink. So I'll have like a Tupperware party or a candle party or a lingerie party or a birthday party. I'll have any party I can so we can get a case of Corona, a case of Heineken, and then I got a couple little girlfriends that we get a little bag of cocaine, and we do it in the bathroom. We do little toots in the bathroom. So again, because now when I look at it now, I'm becoming my mother, right? I want to have my cake and I want to eat it too. And I want to have my kids and my husband and all my things, but I still want to get up. So I do that, and that works for a while, until it just doesn't. And I'm working at the hospital from 3 to 11, and the nurses, they go out for a couple drinks after work, and then they go home. But when Colby has a couple drinks, she can't stop. So I would go out with the nurses with the intention of having a couple drinks to wind down like everybody else, and then they would go home, and I would go directly to the trailer park and get some cocaine. And I would do that first line of cocaine, and before you know it, it's 5, 6 in the morning every time. And then my husband's like, "Where were you?" Right? And I'm like, "Well, you see what happened is I got a flat tire." And then, and I have all these stories, and like the stories aren't lining up. And then he's like, not believe me. And I could see the look on his face. So inside I start freaking out. And so what I did is I made up a job. So I pretended that I had a job from 11 PM to 7 AM taking care of an elderly gentleman, utilizing that CNA license, which is not at all true. Okay. So that I could stay out, I could really go to work, I could stay out, and I could drink and do cocaine like I wanted to. Because again, there's that fear, there's that F everything and run. And that's all I knew how to do, which is totally preventable had somebody sat me down and talked to me. But
Can we ask a couple questions here?
Yes.
When your family moved you from Vermont to Long Island to keep you out of trouble, did you find, we often hear around here that there's nothing to do in Newport County. There's nothing to do, and that's why kids turn to drinking and drugs. There's nothing to do. But it seems like maybe there was nothing to do in Vermont and you still found trouble, and maybe more to do in Long Island. Would the circumstances have been the same if you had stayed in Vermont? Do you think there's any difference between where you are?
No, everywhere I go, there I follow. And my track record has proven that. And the reason I got moved from Vermont to New York is because I was wasted in a car with a girl and we had crashed. And I was all messed up. So anywhere the alcoholic goes, the mess follows. There may be periods of sobriety for a couple months until you find the right people or the right spot to go steal alcohol from, but it's not the geographical spot, it's the person, it's the disease that centers in the mind. So when I got flown out here or driven, however I got from Vermont to New York, my aunt was in AA at the time, and she was bringing me to the AA events. She brought me to the AA Bowl-a-thon, where I met a dude that was there but didn't have good intentions. And then he's the one at that AA bowl-a-thon where nobody's drinking and nobody's whatever. He's the one that I met that became my first friend, that then got me cocaine out there, that then got me messed up. So I met him at an AA place. And then from there, I met all the people and I did all the things. So yeah, it's not the place, and there's nothing to do, and it's not on board. It's the disease. And it's the fact that I didn't know about it. So in my opinion, and that's why I fly all over, and that's why I'm doing this right now on the morning at 9 o'clock when I should be working. And that's why, like, I try to promote as much as I can, because it's preventable once you're educated. So I know now that if I pick up a drink, it's a wrap. I know that I will lose everything. I recently went to Vegas a couple weeks ago with my fiance for a UFC fight. And I saw everybody drinking, and we were sitting down eating a steak dinner. And I had this in the corner of my eye right here, this other couple eating a steak dinner, also drinking a Corona, each of them drinking a Corona. And I said to him, I would love if we could have a Corona. It would be great, and do it upside down. My mouth waters just talking about it. I love alcohol that much, but I know now that I'm educated that if I have one drink, I will not stop. I cannot just have one drink, because one drink leads to 2 drinks, leads to 3 drinks, which leads to a bag of whatever. And then off goes everything. And then I don't care about the house. I don't care about the kids. I don't care about the animals. I don't care about the job. So my track record has shown me that. So it's the education piece. It's not where you go. It's not, it's everywhere you go, there you follow. Does that answer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm made up the job, right? And then eventually what happens is the husband figures it out. Okay. And he calls me when I'm really at work at the real job, and he says, hey, don't go to that other job tonight. When you come home, we're going to talk. And here we go again with the uncomfortable, and we're going to talk. And if we're going to talk, that means you're going to figure me out. And that means that you're going to take away my drinking and drugging. So F everything and run the fear, and I'm gone. I get in my car and I take off. That was in 2005. I left my husband, my house, my 2 kids, and I still have not to this day been home yet. So that's where my disease takes me. So I go in my car and I live, and I jump around from place to place. And then I end up at my mom's house in Vermont on her couch, and I tell her what's going on. And she says, let's go to the bar. So we go to the bar. I get wasted. She gets wasted. It's 8 o'clock. She wants to go home. I go drop her off, and I go back out on a cocaine mission. Now I can't find any cocaine in this small town of Brattleboro, Vermont. And it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm wasted, speeding through this small town in a purple Dodge Neon with tinted windows, probably doing like 65 and a 25 with one eye open like this. And I get pulled over again. Here comes my second DUI. So next morning I'm on my mom's couch, and the walls start to close in. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? And I was only in Vermont for not even 24 hours. And I got my second DUI. You know what I mean? Like, which kind of answers your question. So my phone rings the next morning, and it's the cocaine dealer at the trailer park. And he says, what are you doing, dude? You've been gone for months. Everybody's looking for you. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Everything's all screwed up right now. And he's like, I can't believe you left your kids. Like, that's not like you to leave your kids. And I'm like, I know. And it's like all setting in. And I know I just got this DUI last night, and like, my life is just horrible. And he says, check it out. I'm in Arizona right now on vacation. I had to get away from it all too. So if you want, I can fly you out to Arizona, and we can vacation, and then we can stop drinking together. And when we're done, we can drive back together. Then you can go your way and I can go mine. And I'm like, perfect. Here we go again. F everything and run, the fear. So I get on a plane that night, and I tell my mom I'm going to Arizona, and she says, oh, that's nice. I said, Mom, where's Arizona? She said, oh, it's somewhere in California. I said, oh, okay. So I packed a bag full of bikinis, and off to California I go on March 17, 2005. And I get here, and I'm wasted because I've been drinking the whole morning and the whole day. And I'm hounding everybody at the airport for cocaine, can't find any. Hounding everybody on the plane for cocaine, can't find any. The guy picks me up, and I'm wasted and I can't remember that we're out here to be on a sabbatical and not do cocaine. And he is the cocaine dealer. So in my drunken stupor, I guess I beat him up. I guess I gave him 2 black eyes and a bloody nose. I guess we drove back to the apartment complex he was staying at. I guess he got in his car and he drove back and left me. Cause I woke up the next morning, like, where are we? What's going on? Who are you? In some guy's house. And he explained to me what had happened the night before. And I'm like, so this dude flew me out here and then just left me here? And he's like, well, you beat him up. And he said, he's not going to deal with your drunk ass out here because we do have a little bit of a DV past. Anybody to this point that had ever come in my path, I had put my hands on because I don't act right, because I'm just a drunk, crazy mess, just like my mother. And because that's what I have always seen. So that's what I knew how to do. I guess, you know, that's what I was programmed to do. So anyways, dude left me out here and I tell this dude, well, what am I supposed to do? Like I don't go here. You know what I mean? Like how am I, like, what? And he's like, well, you can stay here. And as long as you don't drink like that every day. And I'm like, no, I don't drink like that every day. And he's like, and as long as you don't put your hands on me, like we're fine. And I do end up putting my hands on him too, but not yet. So I told this guy, I need some air. I need to breathe. So I open up the balcony and I look down and it's March 17th. So there was like 3 feet of snow in Vermont at my mom's house. But here it's beautiful. It's like 80 degrees. The skies are blue. I got all these bikinis because I thought I was going to the beach in California. And I look down and there's a pool because we're at an apartment complex and they have pools out here like that. And I look down and there's a bunch of people down there and they're drinking. So what I do is I go down to the pool with the people and I start drinking. And I drink with the Mexicans for the next 5 years. I mean, it just is what it is. And I didn't mean for it to happen like that. But you see, one step turns into the next step, turns into the next step. And whatever. And my kids are calling like, mommy, when are you coming home? And I'm like, well, mommy's coming home, you know, because who would have thought that a little Rhode Island girl would end up in Arizona, you know, like, so of course I'm coming home. And then I started doing the cocaine out here, and the cocaine out here is garbage. So then somebody says, you want some good stuff? And I said, absolutely. I love some good stuff. So they put me a line of this stuff and I tell them that line's not big enough, put me a bigger one. So they put me this big ass line of this stuff and I do it and my face is on fire. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And they said, meth. And I'm like, what's meth? And I was instantly hooked, you guys. I was up for 2 weeks. I didn't sleep. I did what they call tweak. And I ran around the streets of Phoenix in a bikini for 2 weeks and just high, just seeing things, talking to people, doing all kinds of weird movements, just like whatever. And I finally felt free. Like I finally felt like I had no husband, I had no kids, no school, no work, no bills to pay, no nothing. It was just me and my disease. And I loved it, you know,
Tell me about how old were you around this time? About how old were you?
I was 28. Yep. I did it for 5 years. I ran around the streets of Phoenix for 5 years. And before you knew it, I was not just doing dope, I was then selling drugs. I ran into these certain people and so whatever. So now I'm selling drugs for the cartel. And I'm staying high, and it was a horrible life. And, you know, and I've been hogtied and I've been raped and I've been shot at over 5 times. I've had my door kicked in. I've had myself in some really serious issues. I'm like 180 pounds right now. I was 126 pounds when they got me. I was this minus 50 pounds. You know, I was sucked up. I looked like a Skeletor. And I had no worth, no nothing. And then I ended up slamming meth. I got to the point, and then I couldn't even drink anymore. So I was pushing weight for these entities that made it very clear that if I didn't answer the phone when they called, that they would kill me. So I couldn't even be off kilter. And it felt normal for me to stay high on drugs. And then I got to a point where I didn't even have any veins left, and I would have to do what we call a butt rocket, which is another documentary. But because I needed to get the drugs into my system, and I have blown out all my veins. To this day, if I go to the hospital, they have to do an IV in my foot because I don't have any veins in my arms. Like that's how damaged my my veins are from my own doing, which again could be totally preventable had I had the education. So what happens when you sell drugs and do drugs? You end up in a jail, an institution, or dead. Clearly I'm not dead because I'm right here. But I did end up in jail. So I get locked up in jail. And I had these other little charges. I had gotten caught in a hotel room with a 20 sack on me. So they gave me a little slap on the wrist. But out here, it's mandatory classes, it's mandatory fines, it's mandatory drug court. It's all these different things. And when you're getting high, you can't go pee in a cup. So I was on the run for a little while. I was in trouble with the law since I got out here. So I get to jail. And then while I'm sitting there, they page to me, which is meaning that they have outstanding charges. They're just waiting for you to sit still. So they do that 5 times, page 2, page 2, page 2, page 2, page 2. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? Now at this point, I don't even know that there's a difference between jail and prison yet. I don't even know there's a difference between a misdemeanor and a felony at this time. I'm just a spoiled little like Newport girl, like I don't know anything about this whole wild, wild west yet. I mean, I'm starting to learn. And so they take me to court and they give me this plea deal. And the first plea deal, they said that if I take it to trial, it's 9 to 22 years. I'm going to be going to a place called prison, which is not jail, which is not the stripes, but you'll wear an orange outfit instead for 9 to 22 years. And at this point, I'm like, hold up. I'm a mother. I have kids at home. You guys can't do that. Because when we're in trouble, we want to pull all the cards, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not even an Arizona resident. Like I literally have a New York ID. And the prosecutor's looking at me like I'm crazy. Like you didn't care about your kids while you were out selling drugs and stealing people's identities and shoplifting from Walmart. It doesn't matter if you're an Arizona resident or not. Like you've lived here for the last 5 years by your own admittance. Like they're throwing everything back in my face. And I'm just like broken. I'm just like a broken, scared little girl. And I went back to my pod, and for the first time, I was like, God, if you're real, please help me. I did this surrender thing, and I don't know. And that, and only then was I able to like start to take a look at myself and be like, damn, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe it's not everybody else. Maybe it's not the ex-husband. It's it's not all. Maybe it's right here. And by doing that, and that's when I was able to pick up an AA book and take the first step, which is to admit that I'm powerless and that my life is definitely unmanageable. So I go back to court. We come down to 7 years. We agreed that 7 years is a good sentence. I signed for it and I go on to prison for 7 years. This is at the end of 2010. So once I get to prison, somebody gives me an AA book and I start to read it, and I can't understand it. So I meet up with these little dorks on the yard, and I'm like, hey, can you explain to me what this means? Because it says that a phenomenon of craving, and I can't wrap my head around that. But they start to spoon feed the book to me of Alcoholics Anonymous, specifically the doctor's opinion on page XXVII. And it says that I have a phenomenon of craving in my brain coupled with or added with an allergy. So therefore, once I start drinking or drugging, once I put anything into my system, I physically cannot stop, even if I want to, even if my kids are crying, like I can't stop. And that makes a lot of sense to me. That's why when we would go out as nurses, we'd go out for a couple drinks and then they'd go home, because they don't have the phenomenon, the allergy. I couldn't stop because, again, this is totally preventable with education. I had no idea that I had this phenomenon of craving coupled with this allergy. I had no idea that the feeling was so tricky and elusive that I was with defense against the first drink. I didn't know any of this stuff. And opening this book while I'm in prison, this AA book, I'm able to see that I'm not a piece of crap. I'm not a bad mom. I just have a disease that I knew nothing about. Which then took me to step 2, coming to believe that maybe, just maybe, there's something greater than me that's going to help restore me to sanity. Because what I've done over the last 10 years is crazy. And it's crazy to the people that are not educated in it. And it's crazy to the people that have no idea about this disease. Like, who up and leaves their kids? What kind of mother does that, And my poor family that had to like answer these questions, to the public, like, where'd your granddaughter go? And she just left her kids? Like, who does that, you know? So anyways, and then that brought me to step 3, which was turning my will and my life over to the care of the God that I understand. And I was able to spend 7 years and figure out what that God looks like. And that God today is beautiful, you know, and that God helps me help other people, and that God flows through me daily and speaks a message to other people, and I'm merely just a vessel. So those kids that I left, they're now 19 and 21. They did both come to Arizona to live with their mommy. I have them both under my roof. We also have 7 dogs and 11 cats. We live a very full life. I love animals and I love to give back. I was able to get my license back after those 2 DUIs. I did ride a bicycle around for the first year that I got out of prison. I did my 7-year sentence. I got out in 17. I paroled to a halfway house, rode a bicycle around for a year, and then stacked my chips to pay back Vermont what they wanted and pay back New York what I owed them, and then got my license out here. I work at a car lot on the side. I always have. I like to sell things, and I can't sell dope anymore. So now I sell cars. That's my side hustle. And working there, I was able to pick out the car that I wanted. So I got a 2015 Chevy Camaro, which today I own. I have the title to, because I made payments over a 4-year span of $326 a month. When I got extra taxes back, I'd make a bigger payment, and doing that built my credit, which was able to help me get a home loan. So I've taken, I walked out of prison with 2 prison boxes and a clear TV. That's all I had to my name. Nothing, no family, no nothing. Everybody was back east, and I did it all with the help of God and the help of AA on my own. 3 weeks after being out, I got the worst phone call that I've ever gotten in my life. And it was from the Vermont State Police telling me that my mom was dead. They found her dead in her bed. She was wearing double fentanyl patches for her pain. She was in a drinking and driving car accident. She had broken her neck and wore a metal halo for a while. But that was 10 years previous. And then she had a couple falls. She had broken her ankle and broken her this and broken her that. She stayed in Vermont after that man left her. And she ended up staying by herself in a house and just very lonely. She died of untreated alcoholism is basically what it is. There was no certain specific thing. She always took her depression pills and, and drank her wine. And so she died of untreated alcoholism and depression. She just went to sleep and did not wake up. There was no foul play or anything like that. But it sucks, you know what I mean? And she's resting now. And my dad is in recovery. He recently celebrated 17 years of continuous sobriety, and he's married to a woman that has 16 years. They live in Rhode Island, and they have a nice life, and they raised my sister's 2 kids who are 10 and 12, because my sister, who we flew out here 3 years ago, still can't get it. 40 years old and still running around here doing meth. I've had her in 4 different treatment centers. I try daily, and it's tough, but just do what we can. Both my girls are happy to have their mama back, and we are going to Sedona in a couple hours. I'm taking them on a trip to go get away. I fly around the world and I do interventions now. I am a certified interventionist. I do work at this rehab. And I have 10 sponsees, 3 service commitments, 2 home groups, and I stay plugged in. That's really all I have. Recovery is possible. Sorry, my phone rang. Recovery is totally possible. Staying in the dark and not knowing any better is totally preventable. If you get out there and get into some programs and some Al-Anon and some AA and there's so much education out there.
Do you think someone has to hit rock bottom before they can get into recovery?
No.
And so what would you suggest? Because we always hear that, you have to want to be in recovery, which I understand, but often everyone knows that before you do. And what are some suggestions? Also around here, it's very hard to find places that are available for you to go into recovery. There's no beds available in Rhode Island.
Yeah, well, that sucks. And mean, there's plenty out here. So I actually have a Rhode Island kid here right now, just so you guys know. And I'm not throwing no names out there, but like, and it's not the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. You know what I mean? Like I fly him out here often. I do what I can to put it in people's ears that we need stuff in Rhode Island, but I don't know. So, and as for the rock bottom, like the cool thing about being an interventionist is what we do is we bring your bottom up to you. Because there doesn't have to be like a rock bottom where you go to prison for 7 years. There doesn't have to be a rock bottom where you've had DUIs or lost your kids. Like doing an intervention, the stuff is put out in front of you. And like, if you don't know how messed up your life is or what you've been doing, the intervention is cool because it's all placed in front of you. Like you're doing this, this, and this. Or even if the family sits down and talks to the person, but with somebody, and it doesn't have to be a certified interventionist, but with another person, because it's hard. Family can't fix family. Trust me. If they could, my sister would be fixed right now. So if you bring somebody in that has a little bit of education in this arena, that can be their rock bottom. That can be it. And like the kid that we flew out here, he didn't want to come out here. And now that he's here, if you were to talk to him, he's so grateful that people intervened. He's so grateful that he's here. And at first he was only going to stay for 2 weeks. And now he's here for 6 months that he signed up for. So it's just, it's important for somebody to see that the person's life is out of control, and then for somebody to slide in and help them see that.
What advice would you give families who are struggling with addiction?
I would tell them to call me. Reach out to somebody or call me. I will answer my phone anywhere, anytime, and I will help. Don't do it alone, and get a professional or get somebody that is recovered in your corner to help you. Because again, they're not going to listen to a family member.
And you say that, you're about to go on a trip with your daughters. How was that reconciliation? How was that getting that bond back?
Hard. The hardest thing I've ever been through in sobriety. I have a therapist, and she was a lot of help during that time. But that was it was uncomfortable. It was weird. It took time, and it's something that can't be forced. That was the hardest thing. That was harder than my prison sentence.
Wow.
Yeah. I was not in their life for 14 years. So then there's a lot of making up to do. And then I thank God for the program of AA, and thank God for a sponsor, because it was my sponsor that would tell me, like, that's enough. You've said sorry enough. So she would show me where the line was, you know what I mean? Or I would like overcompensate by buying them things. And my sponsor would be like, stop, like you're doing too much. And then she would teach me when to say no, because they loved it. They would suck it right up. And mom's going to give me this, mom's going to give me that, mom's going to pay for this, mom's going to pay for that. So she would tell me where the line is, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know the line. So yeah, it's hard. It's still hard. I still have a hard time with it. But it's something that I get to do every day.
Do you worry about your kids and addiction?
I do. I talk to them about it all the time.
And I mean, I know you can think they understand it, but do you really think they understand it?
No.
No.
No, because they think that they're different. And like, I know I thought I was different, and I'm not going to be like that. And I'm not going to, so I say what I can, and I do what I can. And I just try to be a good example. And hopefully if and when they go down that path, they know to reach out to somebody.
What advice would you tell a child growing up in a house with substance use to keep them from falling into that same cycle?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Just keep a good circle of friends, but it's a tough one, because when you grow up in an alcoholic home, you're taught that what happens there stays there, and you don't talk about it anywhere else. So I couldn't even give a child like that advice, except for like, talk to your therapist, talk to people at school, talk to grownups, but then they're going to get in trouble for doing that. So
If you could go back to your 7 or 8-year-old self, would you do something different?
yeah,
What?
I would get myself out of there. I would have found a surrogate family to get myself out of there. Yep.
Do you have advice for parents on how to talk to their kids about addiction?
I mean, I do, but it's case specific. There's no cookie cutter or anything, and every child is different. But kids watch everything that we do. So, I mean, my advice is be that open book and be that one that they can come to. Yeah.
We run a lot of programs that are, talk, they listen, and about role modeling, but it doesn't always stick, or parents don't realize the impact they have and how well their kids are watching them and
Right.
want to be like them.
Yep.
Do you suggest education from the parents be more sugar-coated, or do you think it should be more blunt, straight to the point, and be honest about it?
Yep. Blunt, straight to the point, be honest, don't sugarcoat nothing. This way, at least they have the knowledge and they'll remember it and it'll kick in. They'll be in a spot and they'll go, oh, that's what they're talking about, or oh, that's what that is. Like it'll come. So definitely don't sugarcoat anything.
Do you ever speak to young people?
I do.
How young?
Well, when I came to you, what were they? 15,
They were
16?
high schoolers. Yeah.
Yeah. That was it.
That was it.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, Colby.
You're welcome.
This was great. Great wealth of information, great wealth of knowledge that you have. Congratulations on your sobriety. That is awesome.
Thank you.
So Bridget is our mastermind. She keeps she's keeping us rolling with questions here. If someone is interested in learning more, do you have a website or social media or something that you want to share with us?
I have social media. So on Facebook, I'm Colby Love. I don't really have a website or anything like that, but I can give out my phone number. Anybody can call me, text me anytime. My number is 480-849-1192. I do come home twice a year because my dad still lives in Portsmouth. So I am, and then his family lives in New Jersey. So we are home twice a year. And it's nothing for me to hop on a plane and do what I need to do. I'm available to anybody for anything, phone calls, Zoom calls, whatever. Whatever God leads.
What's that?
Whatever God leads.
Right. All right. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Colby. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Thank you,
We'll be in
Colby.
touch. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.